In 1982, an album emerged from a Swedish keyboardist that was brimming with so much energy it had you wondering, who's been keeping this guy a secret for so long? The artist in question is Anders Helmerson, and from his album End of Illusion, the track Rising Mind. I feel like I'm in a modernistic terminal, like the Chicago O'Hara Airport. When it was new, anyway. It's been years, but I remember it was like state of the art back in the late '80s. And all of a sudden, we've transitioned to like this oboe classical guitar part. Kind of like a Gandalf here or a Flark. It's kind of like an avant-garde twist on like saloon music. I mean, it's kind of got that saloon type vibe to it, type of cadence somewhat, but it's also like got these odd. It's like there's two things going on at once. It's almost kind of like going into like Conlon Nancaro territory, avant-garde, solo piano. What time signature is that? It's going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, threes and yeah. Well, let's extend a hand for or an applause for what we just went through. I mean that there are a few things that are more just punctual and explosive than a good like you know snappy ostinato with some tinkly, grandiose piano right over it. And let's see where this is heading. We are going into another track here, Electronical Story. How many keyboard sounds are you hearing here? I'm hearing like the real organy one, the real shrill organy. I'm hearing the higher end, and I'm also hearing like the moogie. Bear in mind, this is 1982. Some of this is really evocative of like, say like 1972 to 1975 type sounds. I'm thinking Keith Emerson and Jürgen Fritz of Triumvirate, and Trace as well. Those like explosive, notes that boom, like that, open cadence, like sustains that just like burst in with the like filigree over the top. God, I try and count this out. I'm not really able to do. I'm not really able to count it. Da 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 da. Hear that fizzy synth that's coming in? I wonder what keyboards he's using to produce these sounds. Some of them are like evocative of sounds you weren't hearing much around this period. But I'm wondering, was he using like somewhat like, oh, was he using keyboards that were slightly backdated, or was he just replicating some of those sounds on the newer equipment? Because it's also very clean. I mean, it doesn't sound like it was recorded anytime earlier. It's got that really clean high end production that they didn't have really that most artists couldn't really afford back in 1972. if you're playing air keyboard, try to get both parts down, like the left hand part that which tend to be like open cadence, like one note per bar, like at the start of each bar, like down, like that, and then while the other is playing more of a fugue. Actually, it sounds like he's playing two different keyboards right there, so it should really be like this thing. How many keyboard sounds have we heard throughout this piece? It's like a minute ago we had those two sounds that were quite obviously different, and then now we've got two totally. We've got this more tinkly. Yeah, that more. Much brighter. That brighter, really staccato sound, and that kind of fizzy sound, like. And also pay attention to the drumming. I love how the drumming just keeps on like fighting against all the notes and can you count this? I think the problem for me is I can't quite find where it begins. There's something in there that's like throwing me. Just when I think I've traced it from, I've gotten the beat, the start, the first. Dun 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 dun. Anders Helmerson with the three. This album is basically End of Illusion. It's basically a bunch of tracks that run together like a instrumental suite of tracks. It went the sequence that we heard was String Song, just a 56-second interlude, blending right into Rising Mind, which lasted for 2 minutes, and then Electronical Story, 7-minute, 53-second epic track we just heard there with a lot of busyness. Anders Helmerson, not a lot of info available on any of the databases, but he does have a website up, and I guess after many years of inactivity, or at least of not recording really, maybe doing some behind-the-scenes stuff, but after like 25 years of no recording credits, or hardly any, or even production for that matter, he suddenly recorded again in 2010. Other than that, has some technical credits on albums by Heavy Load and Universe, some like hard rock bands from Scandinavia. According to Rate Your Music, he had been a member of Kantong, a 70s Swedish blues rock band that I'm not familiar with, or they're described as blues rock on radio. Yeah, one of the band, one act I'm not really. Oh, they're also described as musical comedy. Huh. Yeah. And that band has some connection to Ragnarok, the Swedish Ragnarok. Oh, and Triangulus. Huh. Not him though. No. So I'm surprised that that a guy with this much talent wasn't at least in some like symphonic band at some point. Yeah, just they don't even. Let's see here. Uh, he was born in May 1959, according to Discogs. So he was like 22, 23 when he made these recordings. Let's just hear one more track before I go here. End of Illusion. Just when I thought that this was going to be like some icy organ epic, like from reminiscent of 1971. Suddenly, we're going into all these fizzy, kind of like modernistic synths, and it's like the best of both worlds. This album is kind of like the early '70s and the early '80s, just meeting each other and in some like chronospace paradise. That riff is just so strong, so tight, so like aggressive that you don't need a guitar when you've got like an organ like just mauling it like that. And that drumming, of course, is just like kicking everything into like high gear. F sharp, like just kind of going like digging it there. Yeah, going in through the sharps and the flats. have it, End of Illusion by Anders Helmerson off the 1982 album End of Illusion. Instrumental, symphonic rock opus. And yeah, keeping the keyboard trio sound alive, although for all I know, this is kind of like a one-man operation. Well, I don't, there's so little information about this guy available. Let me see if I can get any credits. I'm not so sure. Let's see. None of the CD, the entries of the CD give any info on Discogs. I could half assume. Yeah, none of them give the instrumental credits. Or oh wait a minute, there's a bunch of names on here. So yeah, the drums and the bass were played by other. It seems like there were several drummers on the album. There were a couple of guys named Per. Yeah, they're basically the three instruments we heard. There's a little bit of guitar that we heard in that first brief track, string song. But okay, Anders Helmerson plays all of the keyboards with some hired guns for drums and bass. And yeah, keeping so it was basically kind of a keyboard trio because we the tracks that I played anyway, there wasn't hardly any guitar or any other instruments, just those three. So yeah, the keyboard trio sound of like ELP, Exception, Trace, and Triumvirate, keeping that sound alive in the early 80s. But you know what? It's not so much that he was doing a sound, he was like keeping a sound alive through lean years so much as that there have always been kind of just like maybe about 2 or 3 purveyors of that style around the world at any given time. I mean, during the early 80s, in 1980, there was a band called Blue Motion that put out an album. In 1982, there was a band called Dragonfly, I think kind of from Switzerland, kind of in the ELP vein. Like, you know, in the mid-70s, there's probably a list somewhere devoted to just that particular sound, but yeah, it was never. I mean, there were never very many bands, even when ELP were in their prime, that were doing it. Besides them, I mean, heck, it probably peaked actually right after ELP went kind of inactive after their live album. Like in '75 thereabouts, when both. Well, like Triumvirate and Trace were kind of at their peak, you know, and Tritonus came out, and all the bands like that had Tri in their name, indicating like 3 members or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, for more rubies and sapphires from the Anders Helmerson album End of Illusion, see the directory of albums by Swedish artists linked in the description below. It's actually not just Sweden, it's all of Scandinavia. It's about 800 albums currently, albums from artists from Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and also and Iceland, of course, as well as Finland, which is not technically part of Scandinavia, but it's connected to that whole Scandinavian peninsula. And so people often think of it as part of Scandinavian, so I include it in there. And like and subscribe and follow me on social media and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the tracks that we heard, the layers, the nuances, the instrumentation. Oh, and if you know the make and model of some of the keyboards and organs that we heard in this, leave a comment on that in the description. Oh, and if you could count out the time signatures that I was unable to quite get a hang of, you know, as you saw there, comment on that too. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear-traveled Tre Maximalist, signing off.